Welcome to Leaving Nothing to Chance, your go-to podcast where we bring you insights from some of the most influential voices in small business and personal development. Each week, we dive deep into conversations with top thought leaders, authors, and business moguls from around the world, sharing their secrets to success and strategies for growth. Tune in for exclusive content that will inspire, motivate, and equip you to take your journey to the next level. This is Leaving Nothing to Chance.
Hey everybody, we're just having a good laugh here. My good friend Jack Silva, all the way from Boston. How are things in Boston? Is the weather getting a little warmer, I hope?
Oh, John, I'm about 45 minutes from Boston and Salem, New Hampshire, so right over the line in the next state. But the snow, it's over my head. The snow banks are six feet high in my driveway. It's just incredible. We got blasted. But I don't mind it. I enjoy it while it's here because it doesn't last long, but it's everybody's yard looks the same. They all look great now.
Yeah, that's right. Don't worry about the landscaper, not this time of year. So Jack, you've been a legacy distributor of a great company in our industry, Herbalife, where I started my career in '83. We got that in common, but you joined the company in 1987, so not quite 40 years, but rapidly approaching that. And congratulations for sticking to one company. A smart decision on your part. Certainly worked out well for you financially, and you built a great business all over the place. But how did you get started? How you were selling Cadillacs, I know, at one time. Somebody approached you on the car lot, or how did you hear about Herbalife?
Yeah, I grew up around cars and I wasn't a good student. So when all my buddies went off to college, I went into the car business and I started to sell Cadillacs. And I enjoyed it because in the day, they would give you a car to drive. And that was a benefit. And so they gave me a car to drive. That was an incentive. And I liked talking about automobiles. And it was just something that I thought would be something I would do for the rest of my life. My father was into cars and I grew up around cars. I used to go to the auto shows all the time. And my father had cars in the auto shows. And I would talk to people as a little kid. So the car business seemed like the logical place for me to go. I knew I wasn't going to college, because I wanted to quit school in the 5th grade, I'm telling you. But all my buddies went off. I was a good athlete. I was a horrible student. And I went into the car business, got married, had a couple of kids, and I was working 12-hour days. They taught me how to work and taught me how to just relate with people. And it was just a great experience. Great people that I was around in the car business. It helped me a lot.
And how did you hear about Herbalife?
Yeah, that's the most important part, isn't it? Because after about 5 years, I was getting sick and tired of working 12 hours a day. And I was pretty dissatisfied. I was working a lot of hours. I was making just enough money to pay the bills, but it was a struggle. And working 12-hour days, I never saw the family. So after about 5 years, I was really getting fed up with the deal. And the future didn't look good because I just was losing interest. And a buddy of mine that I worked with in the car business, he messaged me from Arizona, a couple thousand miles away. I was in Boston. And he said, Jack, you're not going to believe this. He says, I left the car business. I'm working with this company called Herbalife. And it's a great business. And he put the story on me about how great the products were. And I said, you know what, Keith? It's funny. His name was Keith. I said, I watched those commercials they had on television. And he knew I was into nutrition. I was an athlete. I was into nutrition. And I said, you know what, I'd love to try those products. I really would. But I didn't think I'd ever try the business. And he ended up sending me a distributor kit. And it was a gift. He gifted me with a distributor kit, because the products were in there. And I started using the products and I just liked the stuff. I liked the way it tasted. I didn't expect him to call me back, though, and follow up on me. I didn't understand that part. But he was saying, Jack, listen, if you like this stuff, there's a big opportunity here for you. All you got to do is talk to people about this. And I said, Keith, listen, I can't do that. I said, I got this car. If I leave the car business, I don't have a car. Long story short, I said, you know what? I'm going to give it a try. And I said to my mom, at the time, my mom was really overweight. I says, Ma, listen, you got to try this stuff. You tried everything to lose weight. Try this stuff. And if you lose weight and I can have you as a result, I said, I might do this business full time. If I see it working with you, I might do this business. So she started to take the Herbalife nutrition and just got great results. She ended up losing like 35, 40 pounds or so. And it convinced me the stuff was good. I liked the way I felt. I was feeling the difference. So between what I felt, what I saw with my mom, her results, I said, you know what, I can do this. I can definitely do this. And then I thought, it's much easier to sell like $100 package to people than a $30,000 Cadillac. In the day, it was about 30,000 bucks. And so I decided to just keep talking. Before you know it, I had the sales manager of the car dealership drinking the Herbalife nutrition. I had the guy sitting behind me, Patrick Lincoln. He was drinking the Herbalife nutrition. And then I got the girl in the office, the biller. She was into fitness and she saw me mixing the stuff up and I got her on it. And I had a half a dozen customers in the dealership drinking the Herbalife products. And one day the manager, not the manager, the owner, his name was Carpenzano, it was called Seacrest Cadillac. And the owner came up to me and said, listen, Jack, you got to stop talking to people about that shit. I said, and I got me a little bit upset. I says, this isn't shit, it's good stuff. He says, listen, I just need you to stop talking to people about this because you got to sell cars. Long story short, I just knew I was out of there. And after about 3 weeks after that conversation with him, after about 3 weeks, I had 40, 50 customers and I decided to go full time and I left the car business. And I'll never forget, I left the car business on a Monday. It was a sales meeting every Monday. And I left on that Monday. I said to the sales manager, I said, Dick Conway, I says, I'm leaving the car business. I'm going to go do Herbalife full time. He knew I was doing it. He saw me talking to people and stuff. Everyone was getting aggravated. The managers were. And he said, listen, Jack, he said, you can't make a living selling that stuff. And I said, let me tell you something. I says, I'm going to get rich doing this. And I said, here's the plate. Here's the keys. I'm out of here. Appreciate you guys, but I'm done. And I packed up my stuff. I went outside and thought, what the hell am I going to do now? I don't even have a car to get home. I didn't quite think this out thoroughly. So I ended up calling a taxi. Taxi brought me home and I was scared shitless in the back of this taxi thinking, I hope this works out. And I didn't tell you, but at this time, at this very moment, I was going through a separation with my wife. She just threw me out of the house about 2 weeks ago. It was getting really rough. It was a money problem. And now I'm living back home with my mom. I don't have a car. I just left my job. I'm doing this Herbalife thing. But my mom believed in me because she saw the products were good and I was doing good. And I just kept going, man. And I had about 100 customers or so in the first 6 weeks. And I just kept it going and kept doing that, kept talking to people. I never had a problem getting customers.
It's amazing because some of the people that listen to our show are younger. They're like we were at one time, right? They were in their 20s or 30s and they're in the industry. And what you just said, you had 100 customers in 6 weeks. Some of those people, though, I'm sure became distributors of yours. Some of them became long-term customers. And some of them said, hey, tried it, not going to buy it again. This is the way our business works. But to that point, you built that first part of your team from customer acquisition, not from going on the internet and putting all kinds of crap on Facebook and saying, come to my $1 billion run or some other nonsense like that. Like you actually went out and got people on the product. I love that. I love that, Jack. And I love Herbalife distributors. I've got an affinity for Herbalife distributors, even though I'm not one, but I do because you guys do the business the right way. You put people on the product and let them figure out if they want to do the business from there, if they want to be a customer from there. And you guys were so well trained. We're going to talk about that. But your first meeting, so you meet a guy named Larry Thompson.
Oh, man. Changed my life.
What happened? Tell us about meeting Sir Lawrence.
Okay, so what happened was after that first 6 weeks or so, I hit the top position in the company. They called it supervisor. I didn't really know what that was. And but I got to the top position in the company. And so that allowed me to get to this event, qualified to this event in Boston. But that's where I met Mark Hughes. I got to go to Mark Hughes first and then Larry. So after about 6 weeks or so, I went to that meeting because my buddy called me up. He goes, Jack, you're doing unbelievable. He was watching the sales and stuff like that. And he said, you got to go to Boston, meet this guy, Mark Hughes, because Mark connected me to Larry. And he said, you got to meet this guy. He's the founder, and he's going to talk about how you can go full time with this thing. You can make money all day long with this. And he said, you just got to meet him. And so he convinced me. Keith, anything he said to me, I believed him because he was a good friend of mine. And he was always excited about this. And it just got me excited. And I says, I'm going. So I went to that meeting in Boston and I met the founder, Mark Hughes. And it blew me away because he was a young guy. I think he was like 29 years old at the time. There was maybe 300-400 people at this smaller event in Boston, Massachusetts at like the Hyatt Regency. think it was the Hyatt Regency. Anyways, so the meeting's going on and I'm in awe. I'm listening to people talk about the product results. I'm saying, hey, that's what happened to my mother. Hey, that's how I feel. And the lady is sitting next to me, she just got off the stage and she's 70 years old. She looks like she's 50. I'm like, this lady looks unbelievable. And then they started talking about the business, and Mark started talking about how people needed this stuff. And if we went into the streets and the neighborhoods and talked to people, that people would be interested. And he said, listen, all you got to do is just use the products, wear the button, talk to people. We wore a button today, I wear a hat. And he said, and just do that. And I thought, this is what I'm doing. I know what he's talking about. And this does work. So I was so excited after that meeting. I was like walking on cloud nine. I knew I was going to make a fortune in this thing. I believed it with my whole heart and soul. After the meeting, I forced myself to the front of the stage, got his autograph, and introduced myself. And he said some awesome words to me. It motivated me. I couldn't wait to get home. And he also talked about at the end of the meeting that this event coming up in Chicago, and you've got to meet this guy, Larry Thompson. And he said, Larry Thompson's the millionaire sales. He's the millionaire maker. And I said, you got to be kidding me, man. Larry Thompson, the vice president. He talked about Larry, and I heard about Larry, but I didn't really get a lot of details. So after that, I thought, I'm going to Chicago. It was in Chicago. I'd never been on a plane before in my life. Never left the area where I was from. And so 3 months later, it was about 90 days later or so, that event was taking place. Meanwhile, I'm still getting customers, and I got to called the global expansion team. I was right on the edge of this next level after supervisor before I went to Chicago. So I was doing good and I was feeling good. Money was coming in and stuff. I was still nervous, but I was working 12 hours a day, just like I did though when I was in the car business. And so I went to this, I scraped up all the money, bought the ticket, I got on the plane, at the time I brought my girlfriend with me, and thank God she came, and my sponsor met me there. So it was me and my sponsor, my girlfriend, we went to this event to meet Larry Thompson. And I was excited. I never took notes in my life. At the Mark Hughes meeting was the first time I tried taking notes. Couldn't spell at all. My handwriting is horrible. But they said, take a notebook, take lots of notes. So I went to Larry Thompson's meeting and the Millionaire Maker. And I can't even believe I'm going to this meeting, the Millionaire Maker. And so I'm sitting there and all the meetings going on, just like with Mark Hughes and stuff. And here comes Larry Thompson walking in, and he was like someone out of Hollywood. This guy was like, what were those blonde haired guys that tamed the lions? What were they called? You know, the brothers.
Oh, yeah.
He was like one of them. He was like the guy that tamed the lions. And he was just so cool. And he told his story, and it was like, this guy was a long-haired hippie construction worker. And now he had me going I felt in my soul, like when I was playing football and my football coach would be giving us the deal and he'd be telling us what we need to do. He just motivated me like he was my coach. And I loved him. I fell in love with how dogmatic he was. I fell in love with how clear he was and what to do and how he really believed. It was like when he was talking to me and he believed that I could actually do that. He didn't say that to me, but he made me think that. And I just went home and followed Larry's plan, and it was added to what I learned from Mark Hughes. And that first year, I made it to global expansion team. My third year, I made it to millionaire team. My fifth year, I made it to president's team, and built a worldwide organization that's like rock solid still today. And I remember Larry saying, if you do this right, it'll be a business that'll last a lifetime. That's the goal. That's the objective. And it has been. It's just unbelievable.
Got to ask, is the guy that sponsored you he's still around? He's still in the business?
Yeah, he's still around. He's retired, and I don't see him much. But and the lady that sponsored him, she's retired, and there's a lot of but there's so much new, fresh, young people going into the deal. Like our kids and our grandkids are taking over the legacy and running with it. Thank God for network marketing and how this pay structure works. It's the greatest pay structure on the planet. Real estate's great, all these other, but you know what? Network marketing, the way we get paid, is up there with the greatest ways of getting paid.
Yep, absolutely. Millionaire Training tapes. So you got your copy of the Millionaire Training tapes, probably on cassette, 1987, I'm thinking, yep. Right? That would have been on cassettes. And the impact of those, Jack, you understand that. I understand that. This is common stuff for us, right? But some people in our industry, I hear them quoting different things that are directly from Mark and Larry. and they have no idea. They think somehow they invented it or their sponsor invented it. They have no idea where it started. But talk about the Millionaire Training tapes and the impact that had not only on you, but on your organization, and why it's helped you for almost 40 years now to have a beautiful perpetual income.
Yeah, the Millionaire Training was my go-to every morning. And that was part of the plan. It was, Larry said, to take every day and have that study time to start your day. And so part of my routine every day was not just to get up in the morning and make my Herbalife smoothies and take my nutritional stuff, but also kind of food for the soul. I would sit down with my cassette tape and I would take notes on the Millionaire Training. And when Larry talked about procrastination in the Millionaire Training, there's a whole series in there about procrastination and how to deal with procrastination. And that was something that I had to deal with, procrastination and lying to yourself, because we always want to say we're doing better than we are in our own minds. We don't want to say we're not doing good enough. And I struggled with that because I didn't want to get myself down, but you have to tell yourself the truth. And so just the lessons on telling yourself the truth and being honest with yourself and having the Millionaire Training it was like a map. It was like a map that it mentored me on the plan. It kept me consistent. It kept me it helped me to keep the gauges and to record what I was doing daily. I played those tapes over and over again so much that the tapes were up, but you could get more. And I would take notes again and again on the same. When I'd listen to them, I'd say, this is like the 10th time I've listened to it. But even today, they're sitting right over here, the Millionaire Training tapes. I think about them. It's part of my frame of reference right now. How to deal with procrastination was a big one. Doing the things you don't like to do them first. One of the things we had to do was I had to put out flyers every day for advertising and to get attention. Where today people post on social media, we posted in the streets with little flyers. And every day I would do a stack of flyers, 1,000 flyers a day. It was part of my routine. I hated doing them. And as soon as I could afford to pay someone to do them, I had a flyer boy. But doing the things you didn't want to do and do those things first was huge for me. And then keeping the gauges and having that accountability tool, I have to say that was probably the single most important thing, was to having an accountability device where you're actually keeping your gauges and you're watching the gauges, because if not, you lie to yourself and you don't even know you're doing it. It's like it's built in us. You think you're doing better than you are, but when you put those numbers in the gauge sheet and you put them in there, how many people did you talk to today, or how many flyers did you get out with today? And I gauged all aspects of the business. If it was an important part of the business to do, I had a gauge on it. Even today, around my desk, I have gauge sheets on the 10, 15 most important things that I do every month. And I keep track. I can use paper and pencil. You could do it on the phone and stuff, on apps, but we did everything with paper and pencil. So the Millionaire Training, what it did was it gave me a whole new viewpoint on life, on mindset, and how we fool ourselves, and how our attitudes are up and down. And we've got to watch our attitudes, because it's very difficult to be successful if you've got a bad attitude. And it's so easy to have a bad attitude, especially if you go a week or so without a customer. You can start thinking bad stuff, right? And so what's important is, in the Millionaire Training, you can't have a good attitude and a bad attitude simultaneously. You can only have one or the other. It's very difficult to say, let's say you got a party coming up. Larry talks about this party coming up and this big family event, or this big party with friends. And think of this. And you're so excited to go to this party in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, you're going to have the greatest time ever at this party. All your friends are going to be there. It's going to be unbelievable. So in 2 weeks, it's going to be unbelievable. But meanwhile, you're down, you're depressed. And what are you going to do? Wait 2 weeks before you have a good time, before you're all happy and excited? And so to have that party attitude every day, that happy attitude every day, helped me out so much in staying consistent. And then looking at those gauges all the time, every day, I always wanted to do just a little bit better than I did the day before. Those things is really, if I didn't have the Millionaire Training, I would not be here with you today. The mindset that I got from his teachings is what kept me going.
That's amazing. We did a thing here in Dallas to celebrate I guess it was the 30-year or 40-year reunion of the Millionaire Training. And even though I was only in Herbalife for a short time, but what I learned there, I applied to both being corporate and also being a top distributor, as did Dan McCormick, as did obviously Tish stayed in Herbalife. She was part of that, as did Jeff Roberti. Jeff Roberti lives by the Millionaire Training tape, still listens to them constantly, last I talked to him. And so many people in our industry that were influenced by them. But let's talk about some of the other role models that you had at Herbalife, because you really there's three that I could think of. There would probably been more through the years. But let's talk about Mark Hughes. You mentioned Mark Hughes, the founder of Herbalife. If you had to say one or two things that Mark taught you, and I'm sure we could probably do a whole podcast just on what Mark taught you, but what would you say the things that you learned from Mark were that influenced you?
I was stuck in a position for a while where I couldn't grow my business. It seemed like I hit a roadblock, and it was like 2.5, 3 years into this. And I had Mark Hughes's phone number, and I called him once a month just to talk a little bit. And I remember calling him up, and I was down, but I was okay because I could, like the Millionaire Training tapes, you can't have a good attitude and a bad attitude at the same time. I knew I'd get through it, but I just wasn't clear how. And so I called up Mark and I said, Mark, here's the problem. I'm having all these meetings, and I just got finished doing a kitchen table meeting, and I explained to him what's going on with the attitudes of the people and what's going on there and how I was stuck and the customers that I was getting. And I was talking to him about all the stuff that you talk about when you're talking about the business. And he said, Jack, he goes, okay, here's your problem. He said, are you paying attention? And he always said, are you paying attention? He said, here's your problem. He said, are you paying attention? I said, yeah, I'm paying attention. He goes, okay, here's what you got to do. Are you ready? This is so important that you get this. I said, absolutely, I'm ready. He said, Jack, you just got to talk to more people. And I thought to myself, freaking A, man, that's all it is. You got to talk to more people. And there's a lot of times we'll get going and we get so busy with something we get started. We stop the talking with the new people part that constantly feeds the business. And after a while, if you're not talking to people every day, what happens, it's like not going to the gym anymore. You kind of lose strength and you lose some endurance in your attitude. And so I realized, you know what, he's right, because I'm just working with those key people that I have now, and I've stopped talking to new people. I'm relying on these people. I'm actually trying to push them into success. And I had to get off of that. And I just had to take the easy business and focus on talking to more new people. And that's what I did. And I started focusing on talking to more new people every day. I got my phone ringing again. I got my flyers out again. I started talking to people, like putting on the gauge. I started talking to X amount of new people a day. And after about 6 months or so, I hit president's team. And that was what changed everything, was just talking to more people. And it inspired the group I was trying to get going, because they were probably struggling with the same thing. And it inspired them. But more importantly, it made me realize I don't need anybody. I just need to keep talking to more people. I don't have to depend on anybody else in their success. I just have to keep talking to more people. That's like the primary thing we need to do, is keep talking to more people. And so I'm still working at that today.
I remember Mark saying, yeah, when you get tired of talking to fat people, what do? You talk to more fat people. way back. To that point, you built the business all over the world, right? You got downline how many countries? You even know? Probably 18 countries, 39 years. You've had a great income. You've raised a family, right? You've taken care of your family. We'll talk about family in a minute here as well. But that consistency. So what did you learn? And we'll come back to Jim Rohn in a minute. I want to talk about Jim too. But what did you learn from Mark, from Larry, from your Herbalife experience, right? From everything that you started early on with a lot of challenges, right? Like you said, financial challenges, family challenges, etc., to eventually being married 30 plus years, right? Raising a family. What are some of the lessons that applied in other aspects of your life that you learned from your building your distributorship with Herbalife?
Yeah, so all of that stuff then, that I picked up from Mark and I picked up from Larry in those beginning days. And then one day you wake up and like your whole life changes. And that it seems like that happened so fast, but that was like 5, 6 nonstop years. And then from that, you see things and understand things so much clearer. And you things they're little things, but they're the biggest things. For example, looking back, and this is what I've been like harping on now for the last 35 years. In the first 30 years, the first 5, 6 years, I didn't quite talk about this stuff, but now here's what I talk about almost all the time when I'm working with my people and I'm working with new people. It's these imaginary things, these bridges that we have to cross every day. And this all came about because of the lessons from Jim Rohn, who changed my life. Jim Rohn was like my personal counselor. I would call him and he would call me, and my mother would go, Jackie, and I'd be over my mother's house, so he'd go, Jackie, it's Jim Rohn, he's calling you. And my stepdad goes, is that Jim Rohn? He said, oh, that's Jim Rohn. But Jim he like filled me up with some stuff that it changed my life. And these invisible bridges, I realized what changed me is also what's going to change others. And there's really, the good news is there's only 8 of these bridges that we have to cross every day if we're going to be successful. And we all have to cross them. Even today, I still have to cross these bridges. It's just a lot easier to cross. Number 1 is we have to let go of fear. And sometimes it's daily. You have to let go of fear. When we switched from the work in the streets of the neighborhood to work in the streets of the internet, it was a total change for me. I had to deal with challenges again. Like, what's this all about? And so letting go of fear is probably one of the biggest, I would say the single biggest challenge that people have when they become entrepreneurs. They can't let go of fear, and the fear gets the best of them. They lack that confidence. So working on that, letting go of fear is huge. But then once you get across that bridge, this invisible bridge that we always have to cross, then you gotta say, okay, now what's my plan? This bridge is so important, because if you don't have a plan, you're gonna be stuck back in fear. So having that plan is like the second invisible bridge that we have to cross every day. So when I get up in the morning, it's been like this for years, I have a plan. I have a routine that I follow. And it's in the palm of my hand. This is my plan is right here. My spiritual life, my family life, my fitness life, my financial life, and my social life. That's what I've mastered from the teachings of what I've got from Herbalife and all the great people in Herbalife. They taught me how important your spiritual life is, your family life, your fitness life, your financial life, and your social life. All of those things together is the plan. And if you lack in any one of these, it messes you up, because we know people in the business that like they got all the money, but they didn't take care of their health, their fitness life sucked, and they dropped dead. People, for example, that reality is, I know some people that were so successful, made so much money, and they didn't do well with it. They had this mental problem, and that was a fear problem. They probably, and no doubt about, had the fear of losing it, and just that fear got the best of them, and it messed up with their plan. And so having that plan is not just a plan to make money. If it's just a plan to make money, you're going to struggle in this business. You may make the money, but you're not going to find happiness. So that plan, that balanced plan is key for me in my life. But then after that, you got to be teachable. This is a bridge we all have to cross every day. If you're not teachable, your life is going to be miserable, because no one likes a know-it-all. And it's very difficult to deal with people that are not teachable. Teachability changed my life. I was not teachable in high school. I didn't pay attention. But once I joined Herbalife, I said, I'm going to be the most teachable student there is. And there were times when I wasn't, because I thought I was better than I was. But now at 64 years old, I'm more teachable today than ever. But you know something? When you cross the bridge called teachability, you're now going to have to deal with the next bridge, and it's called consistency, the momentum bridge. Every day we got to be consistent at this stuff. These things, let go of fear, your plan, balanced life, teachability. Staying consistent is when stuff starts to change. So when you're staying consistent with your spiritual life, your family life, your fitness life, your financial life, and your social life, when you're staying consistent with that, everything happens, and your health gets better, your business gets better, your relationships get better, everything gets better, but you got to stay consistent every single day. And this is like mastery of our life, and that consistency is there's a big roadblock at this. A lot of people are stuck at that bridge. They're not consistent. They're consistent for a week or two, but they can't stay consistent for life. They can't stay consistent for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, 6 years, whatever it takes. And then there's a big one, Jim, that's John, that's a big one. That's consistency is important, but this one that comes after consistency that we all have to deal with is loving what you do for work. People say, Jack, you've been doing this for 40 years. How can you still love this so much? And I'm like, I never really had a problem with this. There was sometimes there was a couple times in my career, maybe months or so, where I was really down on myself, but that was my own attitude. But if you're going to have a happy, successful life, if you're going to have a life that you really feel good about, you've got to go to work at a job you love to do, or at least you like to do. So loving what you do for work is so important, and it makes it so much easier. I think it's very difficult to be successful and have a great life if you don't love what you do for work. And then after that, you're going to have to cross this next bridge, and this is like the dividing road. This is the separation between the winners and the losers. This bridge number 6. This is a big one. And this is where so many distributors and people I know in life, they totally blew it here. If you don't cross this bridge every day, especially if you're an entrepreneur in business, you're going to have a real hard time, and you're probably not going to make it. You have to have this impersonal love for all people. You can't carry hate. You can't be like vindictive. You can't have this revenge attitude. You got to have this impersonal love for all people. You can't just love the people that make you money and not like the people that don't. You have to treat everybody equal. And I've got this stuff from Mark Hughes, from Jim Rohn, Larry Thompson, and a few others, all mixed up. And this is how I work my days in my business now. This impersonal love thing is so huge, especially today. There's so much hatred going on. Hatred is like a character flaw that so many people have, and they expose themselves every day with, and people are like, oh, I didn't know he hated people like he hates people. He's got a bad attitude. That impersonal love, you can't have hatred. If you just can't have hatred, it just will destroy you. You have to have this impersonal love, even for the jerks. Just let the jerks be the jerks. Don't try to change others. Just change yourself. And then every day you're going to be tested. This bridge is going to be just part of life. Every day you're going to be tested. When you get up in the morning, don't expect the day to go perfect. It's like you're naive if you think every day is going to be perfect or today's going to be perfect. You will be tested. The good news is there's only 3 or 4 tests, and these are the only 3. The first test is your own thoughts. Our own thoughts are going to test us all the time. Now, my thoughts don't mess with me like they used to, because they know they have no chance. But in the beginning, my thoughts would mess me up. There'd be a whole week I wouldn't work. So that thought testing is huge. And then there's going to be people testing. People are going to test you. Your customers are going to test you. Your prospects, your friends, your family, you're going to be tested. Your wife, your husband, you're going to be tested daily. And if you get a bad attitude because your wife got you upset, that's going to affect your business that day. So you got to pass those tests of people testing and thought testing and system testing. My gosh, today we're being tested so much with systems. Look at having to use Zoom, having to do this. My gosh, these systems, it's never going back to the way it used to. So you might as well enjoy it, because it's not going to change. But here's the deal. You can pass all these tests with flying colors when you let go of fear, have a balanced plan, stay teachable, be consistent, love what you do for work, and have impersonal love for all people. And then the last thing is you want to go to bed every night feeling like a winner. Too many people go to bed at night, they can't sleep at night. They're tossing and turning. And I really believe the reason why so many people can't sleep and they're on sleeping pills and antidepressants is because they're struggling with one or more of these bridges, and it'll just work on your mind. You want to wake up in the morning looking forward to the day, and there is a way to do it. And the only way you can really do that is you've got to cross these 8 bridges. So when you wake up in the morning, you look forward to the day, and you're not like, oh gosh, another day. Oh, how am I going to do this again? No, you want to go to bed feeling like a winner and waking up feeling like a winner. And that bridge is something we have to cross every day. You can't wake up feeling down on yourself, feeling depressed. Unfortunately, too many people do. So this is how I operate today in these 8 imaginary bridges that I cross, and I teach this. And selling products is the easy part. Crossing these bridges is the real deal.
Wow, that is some great stuff, Jack. Thank you. That's you know what? That's how you build a business for 39 years, and will probably for another 39 years. Yeah. Going through all the stuff, all the minutia. Like you say, selling products easy. Recruiting people is fairly easy. It's managing all those other things that come out at us. But let me ask you another question. You've been around some great people. We mentioned Mark, we mentioned Larry, we mentioned Jim, of course, and you've had such great leadership in your company in the field over the years. Some of the best leaders I've ever seen in the industry have come from Herbalife. And I guess my question is there something or someone you want to reference, something you learned from another field leader, perhaps, in terms of either what they did in their business or what they did in their personal life, what they overcame, etc.?
Yes, there's a few of them. And one particular guy who changed my my belief in myself that I could be in the top 1% in the company and that I could be like him. And that was John Peterson. And John Peterson, background, he was in real estate, and he became the #1 distributor in Herbalife every year for 20 years. And it's just incredible. And he said, Jack, here's why I'm #1 every year, because I do the basics better than everybody else. And I get chills saying it because that's really what it is. The basics. And he had a home, his home that he built a few homes, but one of his homes, he had a room in that, a spare bedroom. And on the spare bed, it wasn't a spare bedroom, it was actually Jim Rohn's room. And on the door, it said Jim Rohn on the door. So Jim Rohn, he spent a lot of time with Jim Rohn. And so the mindset part of being an entrepreneur, the mindset part of you being a distributor in any company or network marketing, whatever you're going to do, your mindset is 80% of it. 20% of it is the pay plan. 20% of it is the products. 80% of it is the mindset and the basics, and not getting bored of the basics, the mindset of being able to do repetition over and over and over and actually enjoying it. That's pretty wild.
How has Herbalife reinvented itself time and time again as a distributor? You've seen, obviously, Mark passes away at a fairly early age. I think, what year was that?
99, 2000, yeah.
99. Wow, that's a while ago. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Larry was there. Larry was no longer there. Jim passes away. Then you've got company sold to an investment bank. And then you had Michael Johnson, who had been CEO at, I believe, at Disney at one time, come in. He knew nothing about multi-level, but certainly knew a lot about business. Different guy, different scale of things. Grew the company. Did I think a pretty good job. And from the outside anyway, I don't know all the internal stuff. And then, of course, I guess Michael's retired now. And now you've got a former distributor, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yes.
running the show. So talk about that evolution, because it's interesting what you guys have gone through as an organization.
Yes.
And how you've not only survived but flourished under all Mark's administration, Michael's administration, and now I'm sorry, I don't know the current gentleman's name. Anyway, talk a little bit about that, because I think it's a good lesson for people listening, because there's so much flux in the industry, Jack, and I know you've been in the same company forever, but just as we speak, It Works was sold to Zinzino, right? We've seen so many of these companies that are being sold to other companies, bigger companies, for financial reasons, 9 out of 10 times, and it might be other reasons, but we've seen that. Not the case for Herbalife. Herbalife's Herbalife. One of the pillars, along with the Amway, Shackley, New Skin, Mary Kay, Primerica, there's like a half a dozen or so others that we could probably mention, but Herbalife's one of those companies. Herbalife's Herbalife. It's not going to be sold to somebody, and it's not going to become part of another organization. It's Herbalife. Talk about those transitions and how they've evolved, and how you have kept your people on track during times where maybe they had questions as to who's this new guy or this new team coming in to run the show.
Yes, Stefan Graziani, he's the new CEO. And Stefan, I remember when he had joined Herbalife and out of Italy, and just a great human being. He's very much like Mark Hughes, like we all are. The originals were all kind of like Mark Hughes. Mark Hughes said, I'm not going to be around forever, you guys. And when I'm gone, and if I do, something happens to me, you've got to become me. And we all did. We all became him. And Stefan Graziani probably did it among the best. He is like Mark Hughes all over again. And he knows the vision. And he understands the core of Herbalife, which is really the Millionaire Trainings. And what made Herbalife so great is the things that we've learned from Jim Rohn and our way of thinking. There's still so many of us that have this frame of reference, this way of thinking that has kept Herbalife on track, regardless of what's hit us. We've always managed to get through it because our power is the people, not the product. Our power really is the people. The product is secondary. When it comes to the results, the products are great, but the greatest products in the world with no people is nothing. Yes, we have some awesome people. And you said, I think you said that in Herbalife, they get such great leaders. We do. In our industry, we have such great leaders. And a lot of the great leaders came from Herbalife in being trained by Mark Hughes and Jim Rohn and Larry Thompson. But we're just focused on leading the way in terms of longevity now. It's not about the weight loss. It's about longevity and personalized nutrition and personalized and customer service, having a wellness partner to help people that have a problem with consistency, to help people have a problem with mental attitude problems. And because that's part of the health plan. If we're going to have great customers, we got to have great follow-up, because we got to make sure that they get their head straight. Making a smoothie is easy to do, but it's work. You got to walk over to the blender, you got to mix it up, you got to take the time to do it. And so we're always like on them saying, hey, did you get your smoothie in today? Which flavor did you have today? And all those little simple things, the customer follow-up, I would have to say, is a big reason why we've been so successful. We are great at customer follow-up. And when you're great with customer follow-up, distributor follow-up is easy. And so customer follow-up and caring more about our customers' results than the money, that's a big one. But just not getting sidetracked with, yes, we're using all the technologies today. They're going to be using AI to help streamline the company and stuff like that. But we're very flexible. We go with the flow, but we stay on the mission, which is to get everybody in the world drinking our healthy smoothie mixes. That's really the objective. Get everybody in the world drinking Herbalife, and we're all behind it.
Talk a little bit, if you would, Jack, about the store concepts that you have. There's one literally right down the street from my house here, that I wandered into one day, because it didn't say Herbalife on it. It said something, and it's next to the UPS store. And I had to post something. And to be honest with you, I had to use the bathroom. And I was like, there's not one in the UPS store. So I go next door to this little business, and I go in there and I'm like, oh, you guys are an Herbalife store. Yeah. I start talking to these two nice young ladies. But that concept is unique. I saw it when I was over in Italy. I saw a bunch of them, and other parts of the world I've been in. But talk about that, because once again, Herbalife's always been that cutting edge company, going back to the satellite way back. What do we call that thing? The HBN network? HBN network that was on the USA channel back in the early 80s, and et cetera, et cetera. So many of the Herbalife Journal. There's been so many tools that have come out of the Herbalife Corporation. But talk about the stores a little bit, because I think it's an interesting concept.
Oh, it is. It really is. And in the beginning, we're a little shaken by it. But they're clubs we call nutrition clubs. And they came from the home parties. And they were born out of the home parties and having shake parties in people's homes and sample parties. And these nutrition clubs, they evolved from that. And a nutrition club is a place that you can go if you want to try the Herbalife products before you order it. You can go to a nutrition club and you can order a smoothie and they'll make it for you. And you drink it and you say, man, this stuff is good. I want to get some. And then you can order it from your distributor, or you can get that directly from the manufacturer as a wholesale customer. But these nutrition clubs is just a great way for us to get everybody drinking Herbalife smoothies. So we can go into the neighborhoods, ring the doorbells, and give out invitations to come on over and have a smoothie for breakfast in the morning. And it's really gotten the name Herbalife out in the grassroots of the world, because there's nutrition clubs. We're like 3 times bigger than Starbucks. I mean, in terms of locations where we serve our beverages. And so now these become platforms, not just for serving customers, but for sampling, people trying, and also, and listen, when I started in Herbalife, I think it was my second year. Yes, my second year because Mark wanted us all to have offices. If you're going to be a key guy, one of my top 10, you got to have an office. So I got an office. And so Nutrition Club is just an over-glorified office where we sample products, because we used to do that in our offices. We'd make shakes in the office, right? So that's how it all evolved. They have their meetings there. They have their trainings there. It's a location, a platform where they can springboard all around the country, all around the world. Like, for example, I had a nutrition club in Lowell, Massachusetts. They had the second largest community of Asians in the country. From there, we got customers in business in China, and we got customers in another country. So these clubs become springboards for expanding distribution and increasing. I mean, the retail sales in Herbalife is through the roof. Like, how many retail customers? 400 or 500 customers for retail is pretty amazing. But yeah, 30, 40, 50 people a day come in trying the stuff. And before you know it, it's 100. And they do now from the clubs, they also do exercise classes. They work with the community. They get involved in the community. This is also huge. And it's really helped our who we are as a company. We work with the communities and we help with their fitness plans. We help with exercising at the park for the elderly, exercising at the park for the children. And so we're really into the fitness and the nutrition and leading by example and just being a real positive mindset for people.
And Jack, I guess my two final questions for you. One is, okay, so you've watched this evolution and now you and I are the same age, right? We're senior citizens. I actually filled out my Medicare request this come on February 1st. It's like, I got to get some of those tax dollars back. But anyway, hopefully they'll probably turn me down or something. But anyway, but now that we're at the tail end of our careers to some degree, right? And hopefully we have another 20 or 30 years, but you never know.
That's what I'm shooting for, 20.
Yeah, at least, man. We've been taking all these supplements all these years. We better live for a while. But along that way, Herbalife has not only reinvented itself from the front office over the years that we just mentioned, but also you mentioned earlier how many younger people, and that's something that I've noticed even here in Dallas, is all of a sudden I see something that references Herbalife or whatever. Or like I said, when I went into that nutrition club to use the men's room, I was like, these two ladies were in their 20s that own this thing. When I started talking to them and I said, I started my career with you guys, and they were trying to recruit me, and I'm not recruitable anymore, unfortunately, but we had a nice conversation. And by the way, I did have a smoothie there, to your point. I was like, hey, I hadn't had breakfast. I was like, I might as well have a smoothie as long as I'm here. I know the product's good. But anyway, all that said, how have you guys done that? Because that's a big problem. I won't mention companies because I'll get in trouble if I do. I'll get sued or something. But I've done consulting work for companies where the distributor bases are getting older, and they haven't been able to get to that next gen of their distributors, kids, grandkids, nephews, nieces, etc. You guys have done a great job in being able to do that. I noticed some of the stuff I look at from Herbalife from time to time. It's like I'm seeing these young faces, and sometimes it's grandpa was in the business and maybe they're deceased, but here's the grand. Anyway, how have you guys done that? What's been the pitch, if you will, to
totally
do?
Yeah, totally. Timing has a lot to do with it, John, because now more than ever, people are into like smoothies big time. Everybody's drinking smoothies these days. So that helps. Young people are into smoothies more than ever. And on top of it, the fitness world is really exploding. People wanted to take care of themselves. And this is a generation, it's been in the records, they get somewhere, I think, forget where I read it. But this is the generation that's into nutritional foods, nutritional products, fitness and exercise, and they're not into drinking alcohol and partying, and they're into being entrepreneurs and being self-employed. So it's just the timing is right. The internet has certainly helped in a huge way. The internet has become, this is one of the most exciting parts about where we are today, is this new world we live in on the streets of the internet. Access to 5 billion people. And if you know how to get attention on the internet, and who does it better than the young kids? Nobody. The young kids, they're so good at this. And they see it. Like, I would have to go out and talk to people in the streets and do hours of walking, talking, and knocking and running flyers and come home exhausted. I walked like 10 miles from the neighborhoods. Today, it's walking with your fingertips and making posts, and they know how to get the attention. So it's just the timing. And the young kids are into it, and they want to get rich. This is a generation. A lot of them don't understand how much work goes into it, but still they want to get rich. They don't want to work for someone else. They want to be self-employed, and they like this whole idea of affiliate marketing, network marketing. And then when they do learn about network marketing and the pay plan, that really is what gets them. And this longevity, 40 years, the checks keep coming in. I thank God every single day. That's another thing. Herbalife at its core is connected with the Lord Jesus Christ and Christianity. And a lot of our principles come from the Bible. And I just think it's just a great mixture with good health, good nutrition, good mindset, spirituality, fitness, and just helping people. There's a lot of people with mental illness, but they don't have mental illness. They just have bad attitudes. They need to get around more positive people. They need to get in better nutrition. They need to get in some exercise. And now these people that have mental attitude problems. They don't have mental attitude problems, and they never really had them. They just had bad nutrition, no exercise, and they didn't have good, positive friends.
So, Jack, last question. Somebody wants to reach out to you, get on those Herbalife products, or find out more about your business. How do they do that?
Oh, they just go to smoothietext.com. This is my business model. I don't operate nutrition clubs. I used to, but it's all good for people that like that kind of a way of working. Me, I like the way I work from home. But smoothietext.com, it's a free subscription service. Takes 3 minutes to subscribe. You give your name, the card you would use, and the address. And then every day you'll get a text message of a new healthy smoothie mix. And if you like that, you just click one and send, and that's automatically that canister of healthy meal smoothie mix is sent to your home. What makes it nice is that every day around lunchtime, you get another text message. So every day you get a text message, and it's a reminder also to take your smoothies. So it helps with people staying consistent, that struggle with staying consistent when they buy stuff. People will buy stuff like this. They'll put it in the cabinet and maybe have it once or twice a week. That's not how it works. So every day they get a text message from Smoothie Text. And if they see a new flavor they like, they just click one and send. And in 2 seconds, a canister of that mix is sent to their home. So it's just it's a great business model. And if you want to try our healthy meal smoothies, you just go to smoothietext.com and you can subscribe.
Great. Jack, so thanks so much for spending time with us. Congratulations on 39 years going on 40 with the same company, and continued good success. And by the time that this airs, the Patriots will have played in the Super Bowl. And so I imagine I know who you're rooting for.
Yeah, for sure. John, thank you so much. It's a pleasure. And anytime, I'm always here. Much love.
Thanks, Jack.